Okay, so let's talk a little bit. I want to know, well, the whole idea of these interviews are really to talk about artists in lockdown, how that affected you, and also a bit more about the art and what you are doing, and of course you are dancing and or teaching. You are yeah.
So I pretty much my performing career is I moved on from that. Although I
Yeah.
was supposed to last fall go to London to perform in a production at the Royal Opera House in the smaller theater, production of Kafka's The Metamorphosis that was created by Arthur Pita, who's a choreographer director based in London, and it was a production that I worked with him from. It originated the role of the mother, Mrs. Samsa. Sorry, let me turn this off. Back in, oh my gosh, I want to say maybe it was 2013. I mean, my time is like, I think it was 2013 when we first did it. And it was going to come back for a second revival in the fall, in this past fall. But that, of course, was canceled. So my performing days are over. However, there are these little
Yeah.
projects, if they're right. I'm 56 now, so if they're right, then and it's something that I feel I can do physically, I'll do it. And if it's the right, if everything lines up, and that was something that I know I could do. It was really it was a dramatic role, and it was physically not incredibly demanding. I think I could have done it. But in any case, that was canceled. So I'm hoping and if it comes, I have a feeling it will. It's a very, very special piece, and the lead dancer who plays Gregor Samsa. His name is Ed Watson. Edward Watson. He's a principal dancer at the Royal Ballet, and this was going to be his retirement year, and
Oh,
so
I see.
and this piece was created for him as a vehicle for him. So maybe, and now I don't know where this has pushed him into whether he's just quietly gone into retirement or whether. So I have a feeling the piece will happen. I'm not sure when, but so basically I've been teaching, and I teach at a college here in the city, and one of the places that I teach, and we went into Zoom land. I mean, we it was a huge adjustment because most of us were, well, there's space issue, there's technology.
Yeah.
There's I have one class with 30 students, and they were dealing with their own trauma of
Mm.
all of a sudden having their lives sort of upended.
Of course, yeah.
So it was quite a learning curve for everyone. I I live well. My living situation is a little bit different
Mm.
storyline, but so we sort of had they gave us like 10 days to sort of familiarize ourselves with Zoom and to figure out sort of like to rework our syllabi,
Mm.
because clearly when you're teaching a physical practice, most of the students do not have adequate space. They
Of
have
course, yeah.
floors, they've got carpeting, or they've got concrete, or they've got they're sharing spaces with other
Mm.
siblings who are there. And it's a city college, so these are not privileged kids in any way. So, or kids, young people. Um, so it was really a learning curve for them as well, to figure out how do we navigate this.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, there was definitely uh, there had to be a definite awareness of trauma, because
Mm.
it was a traumatic, for many young people. Family members were sick, lost family members, They were graduating. Some of them were graduating, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my God, it's all. What do I? What's next?"
Yeah.
So we had to deal with various. We had to create a lot of space for that, for those
Mm.
conversations, for them to cry, for them to be able to turn off their camera. I mean, that was a big thing, and a lot of them were uncomfortable with showing their personal space.
Yeah.
Um, I had one student who had she lived at home with her family, and two or three of her family members were working in hospitals,
Mm.
and she just was like, I can't do this. I
Mm.
don't have like she couldn't participate in class. It wasn't going to happen. So I had to rethink, well, how am I going to, ultimately I have to sort of give them a grade or credit. How do I have to change what I want them to learn from this
Yeah.
practice? Yeah. So that was interesting.
But
And
I think if I can just, this is what I really think about. Well, first of all, I've photographed a lot of music students here in Vienna, and this is what I heard from them also. That was that transition, that from that many were in their graduating year, or the year that they would have to move on. And this really struck me, because I thought this, in any art, when you've worked so hard and it's your final year and you have to move on now to the career that you worked so hard for, and this happened. So I really felt for them. And now that you're talking about that same thing, with your dancers, that it wasn't just 2 or 3 months, it was really a whole year. um, and 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 also, like you say about the space, they used to these big studios, and to move, and you touched many aspects there that people don't think about, I think, with the students.
yeah, I mean, first of all, there's this, you know, I mean, the arts, I mean, the professionals aren't working. They're
Yeah,
not performing. So this idea like I'm training for something, but what's on the other end of it? What's on the other side of it?
exactly. Yeah,
Then there's this, dancer's career is short. I
yeah,
mean, I was lucky to be able to continue performing into my 50s, late 40s, early 50s, only because I moved into more theatrical, productions. But for most people, your peak is, I mean, classical ballet is one thing, musical theater. I mean, your 30s, and so all of a sudden a year is taken out of your life. And I kept on saying to the students, I mean, I think we need to look at this as though it's an injury. Like you're
yeah,
sidelined with an injury. How can you continue to grow and develop and learn about yourself and learn about your craft and develop your craft and maintain your body with this limitation? I mean, most of them haven't jumped in a year because you can't jump. I mean, I try and give them like
of
bounces,
course.
but
Mm.
they're not jumping. They're not propelling their body into space. I mean, I try to give them combinations that maybe like move their body, but still, I mean, if you're limited in space, you're not traveling through space, and then there were directions. Like sometimes I think, okay, I'll have them change their directions, but if you're looking at the camera, I mean, your brain has to switch the way. Even if
Yeah,
I'm reversing and I'm saying, okay, I'm doing my right hand here, even though it's my left hand, so I can mirror them. There's still that some people
mm.
are, and I'm not very good at it, of switching the brain, like, oh, okay, so she's facing up that corner, and then she's turning to that direction. So there's all these little things, it was interesting because we all sort of all learned it together. We learned how
Mm.
to figure out what was the best way to do this, but emotionally, it was really hard for them, and I felt for them, and I still feel for them because, while some we're kind of back in the studio halfway, like I'm doing a hybrid right now where I have half of the students in the studio, half at home, and then we kind of switch, but they haven't jumped and some of them are doing auditions, and they're being asked at the audition to, everything's put on video, and they're asked to do these jumping combinations, and I'm like, okay, that is incredibly insensitive of these programs that are asking you to
Yeah.
jump, because they're not taking into consideration that most of you didn't have the privilege of having your own studios and could jump for a year. So so
And
it's been,
also, yeah, some a choreographer mentioned to me that it's actually only when they, when you perform, and this energy that comes with performing, or that really drives the body drives you to use the body more to its extreme, than just being in, like you say, in this confined space. So for a very long time, even for professionals who haven't performed, that they couldn't push themselves that much to do
yeah,
it. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And then the other thing is that you have your device here, so really all of your, I mean, there's a part of you that's just focused on that, and so you're not
Yeah.
really fully embodying the movement. You're not fully expressing yourself because part of you is focused in on that.
Mm.
And even as much as I try to get them to, to take these moments of like really being, come, turn away, be here, it
Mm.
sucks, pulls you. So you're energetically, you're pulled there. So that's also, you're not, yeah, you're not completely embodying yourself the way when you're performing. You have an audience there, but it's a different kind of focus. So
Mm.
yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how, they navigate that transition back into space. um I feel like today, today I teach at a couple open studios as well, where I have more professional dancers, and again, it's hybrid, so they allow 13 people in the room, and then the rest are
Mm.
on video, and we're all masked. And I see like there's a little bit of a tentativeness, I mean, they're a little bit more timid in the way they're using their bodies, and it's like almost like they're learning to walk again in a way.
Yeah.
They become familiar.
Mm.
Um, but it'll get there again. I just feel like it's another learning curve, and I feel bad that they've lost time.
Yeah, because also the thing is that now to build up the strength again will take a, a time, So it's the year that there was this sort of setback in physical setback, you can say, because they couldn't use the bodies as they used to. But now it will take also a few years probably to get that back to 100%, that physical strength.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, and I don't think I'm the only teacher that has incorporated much more conditioning things that to try and strengthen, like
Okay.
because they're not jumping, like I'm having them do like rises, like up, so they're using their calves and their feet more, like trying to do more core work, more strengthening.
Okay.
But that's stationary, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like they want to move, and I think they're, when I try and give them sort of combinations, little movement combinations in a space, like but just putting a phrase together, they're lost. They're kind of like it's a little awkward. It just feels like it's a little like. So yeah, I think it is going to take. I think it's going to take a little while for them to get to kind of get back into that understanding that language, and keeping getting their bodies back into the form where they're good strength and jumping and whatnot. But it'll get there. I mean, it'll
Mm.
get there. It's again, it's like I said, it's like an injury, it's a setback, and
Yeah.
hopefully they've learned more about themselves during this time. And I mean, this is, for me, it's been so funny because everyone has talked, so many people have talked about how this downtime has really given them space to do work and to reflect and to explore, just to figure out what's important and what's not important, whatever. It's like, I haven't stopped. I have not, like, the teaching is
Really?
completely, um, uh, uh, like, over. It has not stopped because I've had to do extra work to try and make this, to make this work.
Yeah.
Work. I mean, it's just like, so at the college, I teach two courses, which is four classes a week at 2 hours a class, and I have to do like more of a video component for them, so that's extra work. And then I have some students that are working synchronously with me at the time, designated time. Others are not. Like, I have one student who's as a mother. She's an older student. She's got 3 kids who she's homeschooling, so we have to do asynchronous work for her. So I have to do extra stuff for her. She sends me extra work. I teach, this semester I have one class for 30 students. So I have meetings with them, and then I teach 2 classes outside, like dealing with professionals, which is fine. That's not a big deal. That's simple.
Mm.
But now I go to the studio. Before I was doing it from my own space.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then on top of that, I'm the associate choreographer of a production of the Phantom of the Opera, the
Oh, yeah.
musical, the Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
And this production is going to be going to Australia at the Sydney Opera House in the fall. So I have been doing auditions for dancers in
Oh my
Australia.
goodness.
I
Mm.
was I was at, it was we arranged it so that it was 7 o'clock in the evening for me, and then it was 9 o'clock the next day in Australia. And
My
so I
goodness.
hired an assistant. We had
Yeah.
hired an assistant for me who's on the ground from Australia. She was
Mm.
there. I would teach her some stuff, and then I would run the auditions and look at the dancers, and then I would be on the phone WhatsApping with the associate director, talking about the dance,
My
muting myself,
goodness.
talking about the dancers, hang
Yeah.
up the phone, unmute myself, do a cut, have
Yeah.
more dancers. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, I lasted till about 1:30 in the morning, and then I was like, okay, I'm done now. They continued for a little bit. They
Yeah.
videotaped everything, and then they sent me all the videos. But
But
yeah,
how is this? Yeah, but is it more difficult to get the videos, to look on the videos, or is it better to see this live, these auditions?
yeah. I mean, absolutely. You don't get a feel. I mean, that was the big thing, and the associate director, who's American, he went for the auditions. He was there for about 5 weeks. He had to
Mm.
quarantine for 2 weeks, and then he was there about 4 or 5 weeks. I needed him on the ground. I needed him to tell me, because I mean, first of all, I'm not even sure if people's sizes really, like, it's like,
Yeah.
like, they look kind of tall, but are they too tall? Like, I couldn't really quite tell. Even though they gave me the measurements and whatnot, I still wasn't sure. And of course, when you have partnering, I need to make sure that the men and the women are,
Mm.
like, the heights work. But I definitely needed Seth to help me. Like, what's that energy you're getting in the room? What is from
Oh,
that
yeah.
person? Like,
Yeah.
what are you getting a feel for that person? Like, and that, because it's not, it wasn't, that's a whole element. I mean, ultimately you have to work with that person. They have to be an ensemble. We were casting ensemble dancers, so we had to, to see if people, like, we have to get a
Yeah.
feel for them. Do they have a good energy? Are they, and that you need live.
Yeah.
I had one dancer who is in New Zealand and couldn't get there. So I sent him videos of the material, and he did the videos, he sent them to me, and I thought he was excellent. And I really liked him. But I was like, and I knew he couldn't be there in the room. I was like, I feel like I need to just talk to him. So
Mm.
I set up a Zoom or whatever it was, a Skype or whatever it was, and we just talked. And I could
Mm.
just get a feel for him, because I felt very uncomfortable offering someone a job if I didn't have that one-on-one
Yeah.
or have someone else have that one-on,
Mm.
um, live interaction.
Mm.
So yeah, but I think, I mean, we definitely cast it. So I'm hoping,
Really?
yeah, I'm hoping we cast the right people. I think we did, and I'm gonna
Mm.
go to Australia in mid-July, and I have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
And
They
you're going to be performing in fall.
No, I'm not performing. I'm setting it. I'm setting the choreography and the
Okay.
staging. So
Mm.
I will go. I will quarantine for 2 weeks. They put you
Mm.
up. You cannot leave the room. You're in a hotel room, and they like guard you
Mm.
outside the door. They bring your meals up to you. I mean, that's why Australia is done so well, is because they're very, very strict.
Mm.
You can open the window like this much. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting. But then I'll be there for actually 7 weeks, a total of 9 weeks. I'll
Yeah.
be rehearsing.
Well, then you'll have your time, your 2 weeks to reflect the time that you didn't have in lockdown to do. So
Exactly, and I need it. I definitely feel like I need it. Like
many people say this to me, that it was almost as if it, that they enjoyed the time, uh, because it was like, busy time, but then of course after a while it started, they started realizing that it's going on too long, and I think then the mood set in, of that unsure feeling.
Mm.
So in a way, it's great that you had work to do and that you could carry on, because I think for many it was a frustration, that they couldn't do anything.
Absolutely, and it was sort of it's out of your control.
Yeah.
There was nothing to do, and I was very lucky that I didn't have to. I had to. I mean, I had to just shift gears and just focus
Yeah.
on, the students and how do I make this work for them. So while there was a lot, there was our city, I'm sure was really scary there for the while. And the summer was just, I mean, the sirens constantly, and
Really.
the
Mm.
big trucks and the ice, for the bodies, the morgues. I mean, it was really scary. And we
Mm.
just, I mean, I, so in some ways it really just kept me really focused, and I
Yeah.
was aware of what was going on clearly, but it kept me less emotional about all of that, because I was like, okay, I can't go there. I don't have time to go there. I have to focus on,
Yeah.
helping these students. So I think that was a good thing, even though I was pretty exhausted. I feel really worn down now. Like I feel
Mm.
like the Zoom. I mean, the Zoom is it takes out an energy. It's like I'm trying to break this barrier, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to pull them in, and I'm trying to get them to feel something, and then also deal with technique, and and their emotions and stuff. And so I
But
feel
yeah, this is what I want to say to you as well, is that I do think I admire the teachers really, because so many of the students here told me that their teachers were, or their mentors were very encouraging and motivating them, and this is what you're doing as well, and I think, to keep them going. So it's great that, I think that the role of the teachers here are very important at the moment.
yeah, I mean, I think if you sign up to to be a teacher, you have to be committed to it. And
Mm.
I gotta say, I'm lucky I'm teaching adults. I couldn't imagine what that would be like to have young people to try and manage. Because already I mean, this semester I'm teaching a class which is, it's actually a fundamentals of contemporary, and most of my students are not dance. I'd say I have 30 students. I'd say they're all on different career paths. I have nursing students, economics majors, and they're all taking a dance class, probably because they thought it'd be an easy A or something. They're, but they're, I mean, they're constantly turning their videos on and off, and or getting distracted in something else. And it's like, and I had to kind of really like continue to remind them that what it means to be in a dance class. Like, it's not just, like, you have to give it, if you're going to do this class, you're going to do it well, this is what is expected of you. But I can't imagine, like, it's that easiness of just put off to the video and maybe go somewhere else, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
like sit
yeah,
down for a while. With little kids, I can imagine, like it must be so easy to just turn on your video and just
yeah,
go and play on your phone, and what can you do? It's like, you're like,
yeah.
hello, are you there? I mean, I can't even talk to them, and these are adults, and I'm having to like try and, okay, where are you? Did you disappear? It's like,
Yeah.
we're kids. I can't even imagine what a teacher, like, how to
Yeah,
navigate it.
but somebody else mentioned said this also to me, that she was teaching online, and then uh when they switched on, like, they were lying with the violin like this.
That is hysterical. I know, it's so funny. I had one student who was just, all of a sudden, she was filing her nails. I was like, what are you doing? We're doing a ballet class. She goes, oh, my nail broke. It's like, would you do that if we were in the studio? That's just it. It's
Yeah,
like, once we get back in the studio, they're not going to be, that attention span.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
going to have to
That
go
would
back
be,
to, like,
yeah,
okay, I'm here for an hour and 50 minutes. I can't just turn on my video and go sit down for a
yeah.
little while. So, yeah, no,
But maybe we will have also good memories of these times, like these things, that would not be possible again, that we do that. Yeah,
definitely. And there just been,
experience that.
yes, and I'll say there has been a couple of positives in that. Like, I can show videos really easily here. Like, I can just share a video, and with my fundamental students, they're like, they really enjoy that because I can pull from anything, and then we can
Yeah.
talk about it, and so that's been kind of cool. That's been sort of cool. And then I devised this whole method. It's worked actually. Most of my students have gotten good feedback about it. In that, what I do is I go into a studio at another time, and I videotape myself doing a bar,
Mm.
do the combinations in the center, and then I upload it to my computer, and then I share with them. So like, I'll show them the combination, and then I'll share the video of me doing the bar, and if they get lost, because they're in their own space, and sometimes a lot of them realize how much they depend on other bodies to help them if they
Yeah,
lost the combination.
yeah.
So I have the video up there as a reference, and then I can sit right here in front of the computer and just yell at them and say, point your feet,
Oh, I
touch your
see.
knees, stretch your
Yeah,
knees, your foot's this way, rather this way, as opposed to me having to do it with them or being so
yeah,
far away. I may have a monitor and whatnot, which gives them a little bigger boxes, but they
yeah.
liked that. They liked that, getting that, and felt like my eye was really on them. And I could just click, and I'm just going, okay, this, and I can give them corrections right away. I have my little earbuds, and I just sort of like yell into them, and it
Mm.
worked. It worked. I don't want to do it forever, but
Yeah, but yeah,
but it worked for
for
this
now, yeah.
situation.
Um, Something else that I talk to the artists about, and that is the value of the arts, and the value of artists. And I've been talking to different artists in America, and I know that it's different in different places in America and different states. It's different. But do you think, or do you have the feeling that the arts are valued in America, and artists are valued?
It's so funny you should just say that, because I just got an alert. Let's see if I can find it, from the Times, about how New York City, where is it? New York City plans a $25 million program to put artists back to work. And
Wow,
this is,
amazing.
yeah, well, first of all, I mean, New York City, the economy is completely dependent on the arts. Broadway, I mean, it not only for employment for all of us. I mean, my boyfriend's a Broadway lighting designer, but
Mm.
the economy of the city, the restaurants, the hotels, the taxi drivers, the hotel workers. I mean, it's our economy is dependent on the arts and the theater. So I think our city understands, I think our new president understands the
Mm.
value of the arts. Um, I think there's a whole swath of our country that does not recognize the value, thinks it's an elitist, and yes, I mean, the opera, Broadway, or $200 tickets. I mean, there's absolutely there is an elitist element to it, but there's also a lot. There's a lot of understanding of the value of it. Whether our government will support it like it does in Europe, I doubt it, because I think there's a huge population, part of our government that would never support the arts the way it's supported in Europe.
Mm.
However, I do believe, I mean, in New York City, the arts are, I mean, there's a lot of dance in schools, there's a lot of music in school. There's more of a recognition of the value of the arts.
Mm.
Um, well, I think with this news today, I mean, it's some, it's money, it's understanding that they have to build back our this infrastructure of the arts here in the city
Yeah.
because our economy depends on it. And it's like that really around the country. I mean, you know I it's undeniable in my head that the arts are vital for our souls, for education, for to eat, equal, uh, create a little equality. Like the arts are a place
Yeah.
where you can meet in somehow in the middle and communicate with one another, and so
And
I
also the tolerance between people in the arts, that's really something that I think that society needs. And I've also have this idea that we should start talking also about the education system, because if we think of the education system in the world as it is at the moment, it's really based on the industrial revolution, with the maths and sciences as main subjects. But and I know there are many schools that teach art, and children can go on to study art at a later stage. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we could make art a compulsory subject, where children enter school at the age of 5 or 6, and art is already a subject, an important subject for them, where they are taught all the different disciplines of art, and then they can then move on to dance or do music or so.
I think even if they don't decide to go into they not go
Exactly.
into a professional career, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, the skills that you learn by participating, whether it's in dance or music or painting, I mean, are transferable, are feed you as
Yeah.
a human being. So it's not like it's a separate thing. And I think that needs to be recognized, that the arts in itself are are needed to develop a sense of empathy, you
Yeah.
know, um, uh, for difference, for an empathy for just one another. Um, but there's also skills that are invaluable, and so I think I mean, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I got a master's degree in dance education, and I had to throughout my studies, I had to go and do field work. So I had to go observe arts in schools. I had to go observe non-arts academic classes. I had to student teach for high school and for elementary school. And I mean, there's also a big problem that a lot of students can't even read or write very well. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, we have there's a definite imbalance as to who's getting what, and the education um, needs to definitely continue to be um, reimagined.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I do think the arts at an early age are would only enhance and help students' well-being.
100%. Yeah.
And in dance, I mean, to get up from your being in front of, especially now, in front of a computer, like all day, like get up and move and get in connection to the body. I mean, your health and your well sense of self. I mean, that's why I've been telling my adult students. I'm like, give yourself 15 minutes a day, turn some music on and move and dance or stretch or, or use your voice or whatever it is, connect with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's valued here, I think there's certainly some segment of our society that values it. Whether it's accessible, I mean, that's a big thing. There's such an unequal access.
Yeah.
And there are many programs available in the city, and certainly the woman who developed the program that I studied, Jody Arnhold, is a big advocate and supporter of dance education, and she has made it her mission to get a dance teacher in every public school.
Mm.
So, and it's happening. It certainly is happening. But it's we're not there yet. We're
Mm.
not there yet.
But I think also when maybe now this time where there is so much focus now on the art and artists and the struggle of the artists now in this time, that maybe it's a good time for artists to also express this wish, that this could be, because I think also that if we think of generations to come, that this will then change the whole approach to art. Then there wouldn't be politicians in government not appreciating art, because they would have been the young children being educated in art. So the cycle has to start somewhere, and I think it has to start as soon as possible with young children entering school in some sort of way, that there has to be art in the curriculum, and not, because I think at the moment the problem is when there are financial cuts in schools, it's usually the arts
Absolutely.
subjects that
Yeah.
are cut, and the message that we then give really to children are that if you're only singing once a week for half an hour, then that means that's not that important. So, of course, when they carry on in life, they will always have that idea that every art form is just the sideline or the after school. Yeah.
Yeah, or physical education, or it's your gym time. You know what I mean? That's how the
Yeah.
dance was often couched under. Oh, it's your physical. It's instead of
Oh,
gym, you're
yeah.
going to
Yeah.
dance
Yeah. Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
So it's not really taken seriously. It's like playtime in a way.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when I was she was a wonderful teacher who taught dance at this public school where I was a student teaching for her with her, and it was very very much got the feeling like, okay, these kids think it's sort of playtime. So, and
Mm.
she was quite strict in the way she managed the classroom, but for me that was like an observation. But um the other thing that I wanted to say is that with this, like what's happening now, coming out of this um, pandemic and quarantine and isolation, is that there's going to be a lot more outdoor. We're also going into summer, so there's going to be a lot of outdoor arts events. And this $25 million is talking a lot about that, about
Mm.
supporting artists that don't are not necessarily attached to institutions, and to creating performance, helping them to sort of recover. But there's going to be a lot that I think it's going to make the arts more accessible,
Yeah.
because not everyone can afford to go to the theater or feel that they belong.
Mm.
That's another thing. This whole sort of uh, diversity, and our country is going through a big reckoning about equality and systematic racism and diversity and accessibility. And so making things out in the public, like having outdoor performances and engaging people in that way, I think is going to be really helpful to try and sort of give a little shot in the arm to the arts. And, you know, there's quite an effort to bring it to not just the areas Lincoln Center
Yeah.
area, really to go out to different boroughs and communities. So I think that's really exciting.
Mm.
Hopefully, this good will come out of this.
Yeah, I think you're right about that also, because I thought I saw here in Vienna, for example, over the summer, last summer, there were many more students playing in the streets
Hmm.
than there used to be. And I actually thought that was a good idea. Some musicians say that that could be that the standard, that people get used to a lower standard of music or hearing the music, and that, but I think in music played in the street should be more informal. And for me it was wonderful seeing the young musicians in their jeans and t-shirts, and
Yeah.
just this whole energy between them also. And I think it's different when you go to a concert hall where everybody's dressed up, and of course the musicians are dressed up, and it's a different vibe. But I do think you like you say, these open air concerts and or these outside type of events, they attract people who wouldn't necessarily go to the concert halls, but they might after hearing or seeing or taking part in something like that. So I
I think
think it's
so. I
very
mean,
inviting. Mm,
yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't know, but this could be a positive that comes out of it, that
exactly.
it
Yeah.
equals the playing field a little bit, and
Yeah.
it brings the arts back to, the people, and to
Mm,
which become it's expensive. It's expensive to be to take
yeah.
to go to these concerts. It's expensive
Mm,
to train, so who
mm,
knows? Maybe this will be a real positive that comes out of it. I hope
yeah.
so. I hope
Yeah.
so. We needs to.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, uh, yeah, this is also a thing. I mean, artists, you work very hard on, achieving all these things, and of course, you'd strive for perfection. But maybe it's also sometimes, a good thing if it's not that perfect, and if that it's also for the artist sometimes just a bit of a breathing space to think, okay, it's not that competitive, or it doesn't have to be that um, perfect, which
yeah.
I think is very difficult for artists to do.
I do. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree with you, and I think I definitely think there have been artists that I know that have just been like, if it can't be this, then I just
Yeah.
can't do it. But I think that's just a moment um, you know, of a little stumbling moment, and
Yeah.
then you kind of get back. I mean, my nephew is he's graduating from music school in Indiana, and he's a violinist, and he's had a really tough time with this. Like he's not self-motivated the way you need to be, and he's very talented, but he really struggled with this, like
Mm.
not having access to his teacher live, and
Mm.
I think he came through in the end, but he definitely had issues with that. And then some people are just like, I'm done. Time to move on.
Yeah.
This was a moment that was just like, okay, I did
Mm.
what I can do, and now I'm gonna explore something else. So that's the.
Yeah. Nina, I just have one more question for you. It's so lovely to have this conversation with you, because you've got so much wonderful input and insights into this. But what is your wish for when this is all over?
Mm. Well, I think we touched a little bit on it. I think on a global level, I think to be able to have art be more available, like
Mm.
just that it's not, yes, I love buying a ticket for something, dressing up,
Yeah.
going for a drink. I love that. I don't
Mm.
want to, I want that to happen. But I also love the idea about just being able to, like, there's been these storefront, I'm sure they must have done this a little bit in Europe, where you have storefront performances. So like they're like in like they're behind the glass of a store that's closed, or
Oh, I've not seen that.
we haven't seen it. So they have storefront performances, and there's so many businesses that have gone out of business during this time that there are these empty storefronts. So there's like speakers set up outside and perform, and musicians behind, and then people are in the street and they're standing there with their masks, and they're walking by, and they're having this little concert like in this storefront. And I just,
Amazing.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
wonderful. And I saw a story in Miami. They actually did plays, like they did little scene plays, and it was like you bought a ticket and you were escorted from one storefront to the other, and you had like
Mm.
headphones, and you sit down, and it was a little more organized. But I just
Yeah.
think, wow, there's so many creative ways we can just bring art back to the surface,
Exactly.
back.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that. I would really love for that to be. I think it will. I think it will. Build communities.
Yes.
It'll do it
Amazing.
with
Yeah.
people more interacting with one another more. It'll maybe, like I said, it'll level out the field. That there'll be more equality across the board. That people have access to it that didn't normally have access
Mm.
to it. To going to see performance. So I really hope for that.
Mm.
Um, on a personal level, I will say that I'm just really done with this Zoom teaching, and I just it's worn me down, and I'm ready to get back into the studio and working with dancers. Um, I just want to that live interaction.
Mm.
And I will have that in Australia. I mean, it's that's going to be crazy. It's going to be my first time where I'm going to be in a studio. No one will be masked. Be a full studio.
Wonderful.
And I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to change that quick. I mean, I think our country's just I mean, our president is definitely doing a great job with getting that vaccine out there. But we have like I said, we have a big part of our population that is just really against this whole thing. And so I think it's going to prolong
Mm.
what we can and cannot do. I mean, they say Broadway's opening up in the fall. Actually, some things I think
Oh,
are
really?
opening up in the summer. Yeah, no, they've set a date. Like the shows
Mm.
are opening up in September. I don't know how they're going to manage it, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with orchestras and audience members. Are people going to have to prove they've been vaccinated? I mean, that's a big question.
Mm.
So for myself, it's so I haven't even had time to think about what I really want at this. It's so funny because my energy has really been so much about
Um,
you know, my students, I don't even know what really so much on a personal level. I would love to perform. I would love to do the Metamorphosis one more time. It would be really nice to, but it feels so far away right now.
Mm.
So if it doesn't happen, I've had a very, very full career and I'm very happy with it. So I don't feel like I've missed out on anything. Um, but it would
But
be
I
nice.
think, yeah, I think maybe if you can wish it, then it can happen. If you, I always
Well,
think that, yeah,
maybe. I think it'll be really
yeah,
super emotional if that does happen. If I find myself back in a performance environment, being on the stage in that open space, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And
and
so,
that will be in London, you said.
well, I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, I think, unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is that if they do bring it back in London, they're going to use dancers from London because I think everyone's lost so much money
Yeah.
that to have someone come in from the States,
Mm.
it's more expensive. So I don't think I would be involved in it anymore, but you never know. And you just never know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I
Well,
mean, never say never. And like,
I just say, just wish it, and maybe it will come true. Yeah.
right, maybe,
I
maybe.
think I think artists are the dreamers of the world, because you must have wished and dreamed about being a dancer, and now you are one. Or you had a career in dance. So,
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, I think you are the ones that has to have to, express these wishes, because then they tend to come true for you.
Yeah, I feel like,
Mm.
I feel like it's, we're just healthier. We're just healthy. Like with the
Mm.
arts, we're just all around healthier. And I think that's what I wish for us to, for what I wish that is why I wish the arts to be part of our daily language
Yeah.
because I just think we're better. We're better
Mm.
people. We're just more open. We're more
Mm.
receptive. We're more empathetic. We're just healthier. And so I wish that can be just more, like I said, an everyday part of our
I
interaction.
think children show, I mean, children, if you take young children, they move automatically, and they dance when the music comes on, and they sing, and I think it's in us to do that. And some people want to do it for longer periods of time, and some would not. And so I think we have to give every child that opportunity to make that choice.
Yes, I
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
I'm just so curious to know though how you found me. On Instagram, your friends or Andreas
Yes,
Heitz followed you.
I've I've found many people, because I started this project in 2020, um, in April, and I just really wanted to, because I'm a photographer, and I
Mhm.
wanted to, for myself as well as for just people, uplift their spirits by photographing them in the windows.
I loved it. Beautiful. I love those photos.
Oh, thank you. And two of my children are ballet dancers, so um, I understand a little bit what the artists went through them, and I wanted to just have a bit of, just make a bit of, spread a little bit of joy. But then the more I photographed them and the more I spoke to them, the more I understood how important this was. These few minutes that I took their picture, for some it was really, they enjoyed it so much, and I understood then that for an artist, this performing part of you, it's so important, and it's so important to give. And I learned so much about that. And then I thought I would start writing about it. And as I started writing, about this whole experience, and what I also thought in the process, and what I learned from talking to the artists in Vienna, I thought, well, let me just try and find out how it's been for artists all over the world. And then I started doing the Zoom calls to just hear. But then when the information is so interesting that everybody's talking about, and I mean, from Norway to Italy and now in America, you know, it's all different. It's different countries, but it's always the same type of message, you know. And I think this comes from being involved in art. And then I thought, well, this should really be documented in a way, you know. And I think maybe now it's not for everybody interesting, but because we're still in the pandemic. But I think in a few years' time, it would be very interesting to see what you are saying now, and where, you know, how you will then look back on this time. And I think everybody will. I think everybody, all the photographs I've taken in the windows also, if I can just say, see the difference between, say, April when I started and say September, you know, it was already so many things happened and so many things changed. And of course, we didn't know we would be here, because then some told me about projects that was postponed for this year in March, and this also didn't happen. So we never know what will be in June or July and so on. So, but anyway, so I think, and I also think that if we talk about the education, I think in the end, I think this has to become something. The artist cannot be in this situation without something positive coming out of it, and I hope it can be that, you know, maybe art education gets reconsidered. And
I mean, I can imagine, well, in Europe, it's a little bit more, you know, I mean, government's more supportive of it than it is
yeah,
here.
yeah.
You know,
But in America, I think it's so important because you've got small towns all over where there are no big theaters, you know, and where there are many, I think many children, not all children come from households where the parents would motivate them to play an instrument or dance or so. And but if the schools can offer that, then it's there for the children, you know. Then it's not up to fate if they would be able to play an instrument or be able to dance. So so I think that's
I mean,
important.
I think you'll find in America, I mean, there's definitely communities that support this, and then there's other communities that don't, you know, either whether they're religious or they don't, they think the arts are, like I said, elitist, or I mean, you know, politically, we're a very divided country. And so you all have places where, you know, the arts are, I mean, I see, you know, I work with young people in the summer usually, and I see how, I mean, even some of my college students, I see how their sexual identity has been like the arts saved them,
Yeah,
saved
yeah,
as they didn't fit in other
yeah,
places.
yeah.
So, you know,
Mm,
I agree. I mean,
mm,
arts can, you know, like I said, it's invaluable.
yeah.
Um,
But
anyway,
thank you
so.
so much. And do you
Sure.
ever come to Vienna? Do you
Well,
ever visit?
I did many, many years ago, but I haven't been in a
Really?
very long time. I haven't been, you know, the last time I was in Paris a few years ago doing something at the Paris Opera, ballet, assisting a choreographer. But I miss Europe. I miss Europe so much. But
Really?
we'll see. I'm vaccinated now, so I feel much freer
So
to
you
travel.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
whenever you're in Vienna, please let me know.
I will.
And
Please
then I can meet you in person. Yeah.
absolutely keep me posted on what you're, you know, just how.
Yeah. Well, we are on Instagram now. So and if you do find some interesting project or something, tell me about, because I'm so interested that to know that children, you know, that there is some sort of outreach program or something where children get, you know, more exposure to art. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Nina.
Yeah.
Have a lovely evening.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.